Privacy is quite a concern these days. Every website that you visit, it's either trying to present you with some kind of ad or it's trying to track what you are doing. So how do you block that? Well, I'm going to show you in this video. The most common way, I guess, is to install an ad blocker in a browser. But you're going to do that over every single device, every single browser, every single desktop, every single laptop that you use. What about mobile phones? You've got to install it on every mobile phone that you use. What about those smart TVs? How do you block those smart TVs and other devices from tracking what you're doing and calling home and things? Well, that's what this video is going to be about. Many home routers do not support ad filtering. In fact, I come across a few routers in workplaces and enterprises that don't support it as well. So we're going to use a solution called Pi-hole. I'll show you the website real quick. So it's piehole.net. It's free, it's open source. You can donate to the project. So I always recommend people donate to projects that they find useful. So like I said, we're going to work out how you block all these devices. We're going to use a Raspberry Pi. Now I'm using a Raspberry Pi 3 for this. It doesn't boot by default off a USB stick, so I'll leave a link to a video at the end that shows you how to configure it to do so. You can also just install this on an SD card and it'll boot just fine. I'm going to leave some links in the description below to the Raspberry Pi. They are affiliate links. They won't cost you any more, but we'll get a few pence for it, and we appreciate any support we can get for the channel. With that being said, if you do like this video, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to the channel. If you hit the notifications icon, you'll receive notifications of any new videos as they are released. And if you'd like to hire us, for example, a project just like this, head across to our website at sheridan.co.uk and click on that Hire Us button. So with regards to blocking ads, let's get started.
Sheridan Computers, IT, Communications, Support.
Right, so before we start, we're going to need to install the Raspbian operating system. So in order to do that, I'm going to go to raspberrypi.com, head over to software, and I want to download the Raspberry Pi imager. So I'll go ahead and do that. And I'll run it. So we'll install it real quick, and then yes, I want to run it. So what I'm going to do at this stage is I'm going to choose the operating system. Now I don't choose the default one, the top one. Go for Raspberry Pi OS Other. We just want the light version without any desktop environment. With no need for a desktop environment on this. I'm going to hold down Control Shift and X, which pops up. It's a hidden settings window. So I want to set the host name, so you can obviously use whatever host name you want here. I'm going to use Pi-hole. I want to enable SSH, and it's asking to put a password in for the Pi user. So go ahead and do that. If you want to, you can configure the Wi-Fi at this stage, and you can set the locale settings. You've got the option to play sounds and stuff like that. So the most important one is enable SSH, set your password and the region. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to choose my storage. So I'm burning this to a USB. Now it is a Raspberry Pi 3, and by default they will not boot off a USB device. So you've got two choices: either burn it to the SD card, or alternatively there's a video, I'll leave a link at the end, which shows you how to configure a Raspberry Pi to boot off USB. So I'm going to burn it to USB in this case, and we're going to go ahead and write that. Yes, all data will be erased. I'm aware of that. Okay, you can now remove the SD card from the reader. Do that. So at this stage, I have my USB drive, which I'm going to stick into my Pi. And now we'll boot that up. So we should get this on the screen. It's connected to the TV behind me, but we should get this on the screen as well. There we go. So because it's the first time we've installed the operating system, it's going to resize the root file system to the full size of the drive that we've burned it to. Right, so let me log into this real quick. And what I'm going to do is I just want to see what IP address we're on. So we're on 10.1.10.108. Right, just so I don't have to keep using that keyboard at the side of me. I'll SSH into it. Right, it's a bit bigger so you can see what we're up to. So this is a vanilla install of Raspbian. So what we're going to do is make sure the operating system is up to date. So if we do sudo apt update, I'll do sudo apt upgrade. So upgrade's good done. So we're going to reboot. Switch back to the other screen just so I can keep an eye on it. Okay, let's SSH back in. And we're in. So now what I want to do is to install Pi-hole. Now the reason for SSHing in is obviously this is on a separate machine, so copy and pasting wouldn't really work. So we're going to go ahead and search for GitHub Pi-hole. And the installation instructions are here. So we're going to need to install Git to do this. So sudo apt install Git. Okay, so with Git installed, we basically need to clone the repository. So we can do that by copying this command here. Paste that in. And then we need to go into the installation directory. And then we need to sudo and use bash to run the install script. Let me close this window, we don't need no more. Right, so the installer will transform your device into a network-wide blocker. So yep, proceed. So Pi-hole's free, as with any open source project, so it's good to donate, and the donate address is there. So Pi-hole is a server, so it needs a static IP address. So if you've not already done so, you must ensure that this device has a static IP, either through DHCP reservation or by manually setting it. So choose yes to indicate that you've understood this message. So obviously you're going to be setting this as a DNS, as your DNS server. So it needs a static IP so it doesn't lose it when it restarts. So I'm going to go ahead and click yes. So at this stage you can manually set your IP address. I'm just going to skip this. Our DHCP server is PF sent, so I'd just go and add a reservation so it remembers where it is, and I don't need to mess about. So we're just going to skip. Upstream DNS Provider. So even though you're doing your DNS blocking, you've still got to pass DNS requests on. So you can use Google or whoever you want. I'm going to go with Quad 9. So I'm going to choose Quad 9 filtered DNS sec. Now, so it relies on third-party lists, and the default one is Stephen Black's. And this is, if you want to check the list out for yourself, you can GitHub Stephen Black. And the list's available in here. So you can check these out and see exactly what's in there. So I've read this list and it's trusted and it's used quite a lot, so we're just going to go ahead and continue with that. So we do want to install the admin interface, and we want to install the web server as well. So do you want to log queries? Yes. Now select your privacy mode. So show everything will show the IP addresses and the domains that they're requesting. Hide domains will show you the IP addresses, but it'll hide the domains that are being looked up. So you can hide the domains and client, or you can go in anonymous mode, which will just provide you statistics only. So show everything is fine. Okay, so we're installed, so we need to configure your devices to use Pi-hole as their DNS server using the IP address that we specified. If you've not done so already, then it should be set to static. So you can view the web interface at piehole.admin or use the IP address. So it's also automatically generated a password for the web interface. So go ahead and copy that. So as I say, it's generated the password for the web interface. The passwords are completely random. Now, if you want to change the web interface password, it gives you the command here, Pi-hole -n-p. So enter a new password. So stick whatever password that you're going to use in here. So new password set. So now if we pull up the web interface, it's /admin. We're installed. So I can go ahead and close this now, it's not needed. No, it's not Linux. So the dashboard will give us basic stats. You've got donate and the documentation. So the documentation is quite extensive, and I'd recommend you read through it. So let's go ahead and log in. Okay, so now we're logged in. There's a few options that you should be aware of. So you've got your query log, so you can see what's happening. Whitelist, so if you want to whitelist a domain that's blocked, you can do that here. And similar with blacklist, you can add domains, you can use wildcards, and you can do regex filters as well for domain blocking and whitelisting. Group management, you can set up groups of clients and domains. You add lists. So by default, the one that I add at the beginning is here. If you know the address of another one, then you can basically add it in and stick a description in. This allows you to do disable blocking. Under tools, you got Pi-hole diagnosis, update gravity. Okay, let's go back to add list. So you can add a list in here. Now once you've added a list, then you need to either run Pi-hole -g to update it, or go into update gravity and click update, and that will update your list for you. So now you can see the list that is pulled. If you want to query if a domain is in the list, ads.google.com, I guess. So match found, so that's on the blocking list. You've got your audit log, tail. the Pi-hole log. So tail means it'll just keep refreshing it, so the log will keep updating. You can generate debug network information. So if you click network, it will show you the host on your network. Under settings, we can see that we've got the version, some stats there basically. DNS, so you can choose your DNS provider here, and we've got CloudSec as well. DHCP, so if you want to use Pi-hole as a DHCP server as opposed to using your router, you can enable that here. You can specify the DHCP range, the default router. You can put in your domain name, how long the leases last. You can show the leases, and you can also set static leases, so that's quite handy if you need to use that. Local DNS, so you can override DNS records, and then log out. And I say the documentation is very, very extensive. So I'm using pfSense, and in where I am, and there's no need to use pfSense and well, I can use PF Blocker with pfSense, so there's no need to use the two. I'm actually just setting this up for somebody. Somebody wants to have some ad blocking at their home, so I said I'd set one up for them. But that's it, it's installed. So if we want to start doing some queries, let me, so this particular machine that I'm using is Windows 11. So I'm going to go into the control panel, go into network sharing, change adapter settings, select my network adapter, and if I go into properties, TCP/IP, so we can see this working, and I change the DNS server to 10.1.10.108. Now, if we start making some requests, this should work. Agree to using Google, search for something, and we should have the requests coming up here. So now, as you can see all the requests that this machine's making. Let me close that one, it's documentation. So if I support IC support Manchester, there's an ad. It's saying we're having trouble finding that site. So they're initially blocked. So when you're browsing websites and things, they basically won't be able to see the advertisement, which is good. Let me just come out of this. So now we're all in. So you can see we've got a total of 62 queries, 6 have been blocked. If we go on to, I don't know, the register. Not an ad. So these are generally full of ads, and you can see that there's not really any ads appearing. Refresh that. As you can see, we're out to 13 block queries. If I go into like bbc.co.uk, you can see the number of blocks going up constantly. So that's installing Pi-hole on a Raspberry Pi to do ad blocking. Don't go anywhere just yet. If you want to know how to configure that Raspberry Pi 3 to boot off USB, you'll find that video popping up in a second. If you found this video useful, then chances are you'll find more of my videos useful. So feel free to have a look at them. If you do like any of them, then please like the video. Consider subscribing to the channel and hit that notifications icon. It does help with the YouTube algorithm. If you'd like to hire us for any projects, again, such as this one, head across to our website at sheridan.co.uk and click on that Hire Us button. I'll see you in the next video.